Well, hello. My name's Edward Garston. I'm a corporate and commercial partner here at Spencer West LLP. And I'm joined this morning by Robin Adda, who is founder of Barefoot eLearning.
Great to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Great to have you here, Robin. Robin and I have known each other for, at least a decade, maybe even longer. And I've helped Robin with his corporate activities through his businesses in a number of different scenarios. And I thought it might be quite interesting, Robin, if we just explore a few key points from your history, starting with your company business back in 2012, which is when I think we first started working together. Because I think it's probably fair to say at that time your company wasn't doing brilliantly. I think it had a few issues, a few difficulties, but you thought you had a way of seeing your way through those, which was where I came in.
Yeah, exactly. So in 2012, the company was actually in a pretty poor state, and we had to take some essential decisions. So we decided to take action, which managed to turn the cash flow around. And we had a lot of preference shares. We had about £1 million of preference shares, which had originally been loans by me to the company, but we had an unsuccessful AIM listing plan, and therefore those loans were converted into preference shares. So there we were in the company with very little cash flow, and I was unable to pay myself, but I was looking at a balance sheet with almost £1 million of preference shares, which were of no use to anybody. And that's where I met Ed, through, in fact, our accountants, Simon Metcalf at Lucentum, who introduced me to Edward.
And when the situation was first discussed between the three of us, we had a look at it to see what we could do, and we came up with a solution, didn't we, Robin?
We did. Well, to start with, both you and Simon said, no, you can't do anything about it. And that money is locked into preference shares. Then, about a month later, I got a call, and I was told, yes, we can do it, but it will be complicated.
It was complicated, as I remember. And I think didn't it go over a sort of December, Christmas period?
Yes.
So it was, a difficult time of year to actually get the wheels in motion for it. But we came out the other end. We managed to get the deal done for you. And having done that deal, what did it mean for the company's prospects at that point?
Well, I think if you look at the whole scenario, all those essential steps that we took, and to get the company back on track, and I really think we were on our last legs, and then to convert those preference shares back into loans, that meant that I could pay myself and continue at the helm of the company, and we just almost from then on we just took off. It was extraordinary.
It was extraordinary, and you were trading very well. You were building and developing the business, and then our next sort of period of working together, the company was in a very, very different state, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. We were then a very profitable company. It really was extraordinary, and we received an offer to buy our business from an American organization, and after toing and froing with them, I suddenly realized, right, I think we're going to have to go with this acquisition because it would be a great opportunity for us. So we need to line up our professional advisors. And so I got in touch with Edward and said, can you help?
That's right, because as soon as the acquisition was on the table, that's the point when your professional team swings into action, and we work, certainly work in conjunction with your accountants, just to ensure that the transaction works well for you. It gives you everything that you want, and we help you negotiate the terms during that transaction. So it was, as I remember, it was an interesting turn of events, because very early on in the transaction, we had a little bit of a battle over jurisdiction. The American company wanted American jurisdiction, we wanted English jurisdiction, and that argument alone was several weeks, possibly
months. It was months. It wasted months, but eventually we got back on track. We were dealing with UK lawyers on either side. Well, obviously Edward and the buyer's lawyers, and then we signed a series of deals, didn't we? We had the purchase contract for the business. We had the employment contract, and then I had to get all the shareholders together. And they were disparate shareholders from all over the world, individuals who'd been invited to buy shares in the company. And Edward said, right, well, you're going to have to use a special process. What was that?
Yes, that was that was a very interesting part of the deal personally. In that, during the company's early days, it had given out shares to quite a few small amounts. To various people that had been involved with the business. And of course, because we were selling the company by way of a share sale, they would have all needed to be included. Ordinarily not a problem if the numbers are manageable. Here the numbers were anything but manageable, and they were spread out all over the world, as I remember.
So you recommended a drag and tack.
We had we had to change the company constitution to allow us to buy up all the shares of the minorities and include them within the transaction. And that allowed you to control the process. Otherwise, the process would have been very difficult, very lengthy, and of course, very expensive by the time we add in all the additional costs of doing minorities.
It was a lot of work, but it was successful in the end. But that was not the end of the story, because then the American buyer decided that they'd buy another company and sunset our company, and I had an earn out 3 years, so I couldn't enjoy, if you like, the earn out, and therefore I got in touch with Edward again and said, I think we've got to invoke the breach of contract.
Yes, that's right. If I just sort of recap a little bit, part of your sale proceeds were not paid to you at completion. They were going to be paid to you over a 3-year period. And those were not going to be fixed amounts. They would vary depending on how the company performed during that 3-year period. If the company performed really well, you'd get a really nice extra amount paid to you. If it just sort of flatlined, then there would probably be nothing payable to you at all. So what had happened was that shortly after completion, the buyer had a different view of the company's future prospects, and rather than trading the company as you had traded it, or as you had wanted it to be traded, they decided that it probably wasn't the best fit for its operations. And the knock-on effect of that was that you wouldn't receive any of your earn-out payments.
Exactly.
You phoned me up, very unhappy with the way that it's gone. We have a look at the contract again. One of the negotiated points was that they needed to continue to run the business, and it was clear that their actions were in breach of that. So it was at that point your professional team expanded to our litigation team, our commercial litigators, who acted on your behalf in trying to resolve that and to get you some additional payments.
Which ended up being successful.
Ended up being very successful. Yeah. Obviously, it was slightly less than had the company traded brilliantly, but it was certainly a lot more than had the company just folded as the buyer had wanted to do with it.
Exactly. So I was very grateful, and there we are. So we sold the company, we closed it all down, and I started on my next step.
Your next step. So tell us, Robin, what your next step has been.
A new startup. And all my adventures are in my book, which is on Amazon, which makes a very exciting reading for anybody who wants to do a startup. But basically, I've started a new online e-learning company, again in the training area, and I'm sure I will have need for Edward's advice, hopefully, as we move forward.
Fantastic. Well, I've read the book. It's fascinating. I certainly didn't realise that your entrepreneurial adventures have started or have been as lengthy as they have.
I didn't realise I was as old as I am.
I was trying not to say that. But it really is quite how you fitted everything into a single book. I don't know. I think there's 2 books in there. But no, it's brilliant, Robin. Well, thank you ever so much for taking the time to be with us this morning.
Well, I've enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
It's been lovely to reminisce as to how the transactions went through, and to hear the experience that you've had with professional advisors throughout your professional lifetime.
My experiences with Edward have been excellent.
Thank you very much. Thanks for you to say so.
Great. Okay, well, I really enjoyed today's session. It was good to get together with Edward. It's good to have a trusted advisor. I believe very strongly in having good trusted advisors, especially as Spencer West has a wide range of expertise. So when the next transaction comes up, which I'm working towards, I hope, I'm sure that Edward will be one of the first people I call.